The town of Bitter Creek wasn't on most maps anymore. It sat low in the crook of a valley, surrounded by dry gulches and wind-warped cottonwoods. The highway had bypassed it decades ago, and the railway had rusted to dust long before that. Locals said the earth there was wrong. Too quiet. Too soft. Like it held something beneath. That's where Erin Maddox was heading with her daughter, Sadie, into the dead heart of Wyoming, where her family roots had rotted for over a century. The call had come a week earlier. Your great-aunt Lorna passed. You've inherited the house. What house? Erin had asked, confused. The one on Silt Ridge. The Maddox homestead. Been empty near 15 years. Erin didn't remember ever hearing about it. But the tone in the lawyer's voice made her hesitate. There was something unnerved beneath the formality. They arrived just past dusk, headlights sweeping across empty fields and faded signs. Silt Ridge Road looked more like a bone-dry creek bed than a path, its gravel cracked and flaking. A mailbox stood at a tilt, rusted through, the name Maddox barely visible beneath layers of peeling black paint. The house itself rose from the ridge like something exhumed. 2 stories. Wide porch. Shutters hanging limp like dead wings. Everything about it looked off. Sadie, all of 11 and unusually quiet for the entire ride, finally spoke. "Mom," she said, pointing to the upstairs window. "Who's that?" Erin slammed the brakes. Her eyes shot upward. Nothing. The window was dark. Just the reflection of the porch light in the dirty pane. "No one, baby." "Just shadows," Erin said, trying to calm her thudding heart. Sadie didn't respond. She stared at the window another long moment, then turned away slowly. Inside, the house smelled of damp wood and forgotten air. Dust floated in the beam of Erin's flashlight, dancing like ash. The wallpaper curled at the corners. Furniture stood draped in yellowed sheets, like bodies under shrouds. In the kitchen, an old rotary phone hung from the wall, its cord cut. A clock above the stove ticked, but the hands never moved. They picked the least dusty room downstairs and unpacked the basics. Sadie curled up in a sleeping bag with her flashlight and a book, while Erin sat by the fireplace, sifting through a box of old photographs left behind. One in particular made her stop. It showed the house, but the land around it looked wrong. Barren, cracked, like the desert had swallowed it. In the background stood a tree that wasn't there anymore. Tall, pale, twisted. Like it had grown out of bone. On the back, in smeared pen, "Don't let her in." Erin stared at it, heart skipping. Her skin prickled. Suddenly, thump. From upstairs. Erin turned. Sadie looked up too. Another thump. Then a slow, dragging scrape. Something moving across the floorboards above them. "It's just the house settling," Erin said automatically. But the words rang false. The sound was too deliberate. Sadie hugged her knees. That night, sleep came in fits. Erin lay on the couch with her coat still on, the photo clutched tight in one hand. The air felt thick, pressed against her like damp cotton. Outside, the wind howled over the ridge, but it never touched the house. The trees didn't move. The porch swing didn't creak. And sometime just past 3 a.m., Sadie began to talk in her sleep. "She's under the tree. She's still under the tree. Don't open the ground." At dawn, Erin went out to look. No sign of a tree. Just brittle grass and dry earth. But the soil near the back of the house looked disturbed. As if something had been dug up. Or something had crawled out. She didn't mention it to Sadie. But that day, the girl refused to go near the second floor. She wouldn't say why. That night, the power died. No storm. No explanation. The house simply went dark, all at once. And in that darkness, the house felt closer somehow. The walls leaned in. The floorboards groaned. And upstairs, Erin swore she heard breathing, slow, raspy, and not human. Sadie clutched Erin's hand and whispered, "She's coming." Erin whispered back, "Who?" Sadie's eyes filled with tears. "Aunt Lorna, but she's not right anymore." The morning after the blackout, Erin tried to convince herself it was just the house playing tricks. Old wood, dry wires, memories tangled in dust. But the feeling hadn't left. Something wrong was coiled in the walls, listening, watching. She found Sadie curled up on the floor, pale and wide-eyed. She hadn't slept. She was whispering all night, Sadie said. From the vents. Like her voice was made of dirt. Erin crouched beside her, brushing the girl's hair from her face. "There's no one here, sweetheart." Sadie didn't argue. She just stared at the floorboards. Later that day, Erin explored the upstairs. Every step on the staircase screamed, groaned, like it hated being touched. The hall smelled like dried blood and old flowers. One room was sealed shut with rusted nails across the door, hammered in from the outside. Whoever lived here last hadn't wanted something to get out. She tried not to look at the scorched spot near the door. A ring burned into the wood, black and cracked like a ritual had been left behind. Inside the ring, claw marks, not scratches, gouges. Erin stumbled back down the stairs. In the afternoon, they walked the perimeter of the property. The sun hung dim in a sky too pale. Out behind the shed, they found bones. Animal bones, at first glance, small, brittle, arranged in a circle. But the longer Erin stared at them, the more wrong they looked. One was a jawbone. Human-sized. But with too many teeth. Sadie pointed toward the tree line. "She used to hang dolls in the trees," she said softly. "Great Aunt Lorna." To keep the voices back. Erin paused. "Who told you that?" Sadie looked confused. "You did. In the car." Erin hadn't. Not a single word about Lorna. Not until they arrived. That evening, the light began to flicker again, even though the power had not returned. It wasn't coming from the lamps. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. Erin followed it, a pulsing, reddish glow that throbbed like a heartbeat. It came from the living room. From a crack in the floor. When she knelt and peeled back the boards, she found roots, thick, gnarled, blackened things, pulsing with light, like veins under skin. They weren't tree roots. They twitched when touched. Erin leapt back, slamming the floor shut. That night, Sadie wouldn't speak. She just sat facing the sealed door upstairs, whispering under her breath. She's not buried anymore. She's growing. Sometime around midnight, the door creaked open. The sealed door. The one nailed shut with iron. The nails had popped loose, as if pushed from within. Erin heard it from downstairs and froze. There were footsteps now. Slow. Wet. Moving down the hall. Then, a soft dragging sound, like something pulling its limbs across splintered wood. Sadie began to cry without sound, rocking in place. Erin gripped the fire poker and climbed the stairs, heart thundering. The hall was empty. The door stood open, swinging slightly. Inside, the room was cold. The walls were covered in symbols, carved into the plaster. A dead bird hung from a length of twine in the center of the ceiling. Underneath it, a trapdoor opened to the crawlspace beneath the house. A rope ladder dangled down into pitch blackness. From below came a faint, choking voice. "Erin, you left me." It was her mother's voice. But her mother had died in 1998. Erin dropped the fire poker and slammed the trapdoor shut, nailing it down with her bare hands. Her fingernails split. Blood smeared the wood. She dragged a dresser over it and collapsed against the wall, shaking. Down below, something scratched. Not claws. Fingers. At dawn, Sadie stood by the porch, staring at the horizon. "She wants us to go to the tree," she whispered. "She said we're part of it now. The house eats you, Mom." From the inside. Behind her, in the reflection of the front window, Erin saw a figure. A woman, impossibly tall, standing in the living room, with no eyes. Just hollow sockets, pouring ash. When Erin turned, there was nothing. But the rot had spread. The roots were in the walls now. Pushing through the drywall. Slithering in the corners. That night, the house whispered Sadie's name. Not once, but over and over, in different voices. Some Erin recognized. Some she didn't. Some sounded like her own voice, calling her daughter into the darkness. And Sadie? She started answering back. The next morning, Erin found dirt in Sadie's bed. Not a little, mounds of it, packed into the sheets, ground into her hair, under her fingernails. Sadie's mouth was black with it, lips cracked and dry, as if she'd been eating it in her sleep. "She made me," Sadie said flatly. "She said it helps the roots grow stronger." Erin pulled her daughter into the bathroom and scrubbed her skin raw under scalding water, but the smell wouldn't go. The smell of earth turned sour. That day, Erin tried to leave. She packed bags. Dragged Sadie to the car. The tires squealed as they rolled down the gravel path. But the road was gone. Not blocked. Gone. The woods had shifted. Trees that weren't there before now loomed high, twisted, gnarled. The same crooked oak appeared again and again, as if circling them. The GPS spun uselessly. After hours of driving, Erin slammed the brakes and screamed. They were back at the house. Sadie didn't seem surprised. "You can't leave if you're planted," she whispered. "The house needs you now." That night, Erin began hearing things in her dreams. Scraping. Digging. Breathing under the floor. And a voice. Low. Soft. Wrong. She opened her mouth too wide, and the dark crawled in. She woke up with her fingernails filled with dirt. Her pillow soaked with black water. At 3:13 a.m., Sadie disappeared. Erin found the front door wide open. The roots had curled around the handle, pulling it inward. She ran screaming into the yard, flashlight flickering. No footprints. Just drag marks through the soil, toward the tree line. And then, she saw them. Dolls. Hung by twine from branches. Some melted by fire. Some missing faces. All of them swaying gently. Below the largest tree was a hole. Freshly dug. Damp earth. Inside, Sadie's stuffed rabbit, torn in half. Erin jumped into the pit, clawing through the dirt with her hands. Her fingers hit wood, not a coffin. A box. Old. Carved with symbols. She pried it open. Inside were teeth. Human. Baby teeth. Hundreds of them. Each with a name written in red ink. The last one said, Sadie Elkins, claimed. A sound came from behind her. Not footsteps. Something being pulled, heavy, wet, jointless. Erin turned and saw her daughter. Or what had been Sadie. She stood naked, covered in filth, her eyes completely black. She opened her mouth and let out a dry cough. A puff of ash spilled out. "She's inside now, Mommy," Sadie said in 100 voices at once. Then she smiled. And it wasn't her smile. Erin ran. She didn't remember getting back to the house. Just the slamming of the door, the dragging of furniture to block it, and the way the walls were bleeding sap now, thick, black like tar. The house trembled. The upstairs hallway was now longer, somehow, stretching far beyond the blueprint. Dozens of new doors, all pulsing, breathing, exhaling whispers. Dig. 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 She's waiting. That night, Erin locked herself in the bathroom. She stared into the mirror, not blinking. Her eyes were starting to change, the whites graying, like mold blooming inside her. And behind her, just for a second, she saw her reflection smile while she did not. The mirror fogged up with no steam. Words written across it from the inside. Hollow is holy. When the lights went out again, she didn't move. She listened. To the sound of Sadie's footsteps above her. To the sound of roots curling around the pipes. To the soft digging beneath the tub. Then the voice again. You can't take her back. She was mine before she was yours. And behind the drywall, something pressed, a handprint, thin and stretched, sliding downward. In the morning, Erin found Sadie sitting in the kitchen. Alive. Smiling. Clean. I made pancakes, she said. You were right. It was just a dream. But there was blood on the ceiling. Long, dripping trails. And Sadie had no shadow. Erin didn't eat. She just sat, staring at the girl across from her. She looked like Sadie. She sounded like Sadie. But something behind her eyes was starving. Erin stopped sleeping. The house no longer followed the rules of time. Daylight came late and left early. The clocks spun. Shadows crept from corners they didn't belong in. She tried writing things down to keep track, names, times, changes, but the ink on the paper would smudge and vanish by morning. And Sadie. Sadie became something else. She still looked like her daughter. But she didn't blink. She didn't breathe unless reminded. And sometimes, Erin caught her whispering to the walls in a voice too old for a child. The bells are almost done ringing, Sadie said over breakfast one morning. When the last one tolls, the mouth opens. That night, Erin went to the attic. It had been locked since they moved in. The old skeleton key was buried in the crawlspace behind the washer, wrapped in wet leather, pulsing like flesh. She hesitated before using it, but her hands moved on their own. The door opened with a gasp. Inside, dozens of mismatched shoes, all children's sizes, neatly lined on either side of a dirt path. Yes, dirt, in the attic. And at the end, a ladder. Going down. It shouldn't have been possible. The ladder descended for 10 minutes, deeper than the foundation, through warm soil and cold stone, until it opened into a cavern. And in the middle of that cavern was a chapel, grown from the roots of the house above. A cathedral of rot. Roots pulsed like veins, twisting around pews made of bone. At the altar stood a statue, 7 feet tall, mouth agape in silent scream, no eyes, no hands, just a face covered in hundreds of tiny teeth. And behind the altar, a pulpit where Sadie stood, back to Erin, humming. Erin stepped forward, calling her name. Sadie turned. Her face had changed. Her mouth stretched open, sideways, splitting her cheeks ear to ear. And from her throat, a voice spilled out that was not her own. She was a cradle for the Hollow One. And you, Mother, are the gate. The roots lashed out. Erin screamed as they wrapped her legs, hoisting her upside down. Blood rushed to her head as the chapel spun. Sadie's body convulsed, bones snapping out of place, arms elongating. The thing in Sadie's skin stepped closer. Its hands were made of bark and teeth, and its eyes were just holes. Bitter Creek is where the seed was planted. You water it with grief. You prune it with flesh. The altar cracked open. Inside was a pit filled with squirming tongues, each whispering names in reverse, endless repetition. And at the very bottom, something stirred. It saw her. It knew her. Erin reached for the knife at her hip, one she'd pocketed from the kitchen, and cut through the roots, falling hard onto the pulsing floor. She ran, half blind, dodging thorns and teeth embedded in the walls. Behind her, the chapel began to sing, a sound made of screams layered into hymns. She climbed back up the ladder. Dirt filled her mouth. Her ears bled. Every rung felt like it was growing longer, stretching like the house didn't want to let her go. When she finally emerged, the attic had changed. It was a nursery now. Dozens of cribs. All filled with dirt, squirming softly. And every crib had a mobile above it, dangling tiny teeth, spinning. She backed out, shaking. Downstairs, Sadie was waiting. She wore a crown of roots and a dress of spider silk, her eyes completely white. "You open the first door," Sadie said. "There are still 4. Erin screamed at her to stop, to leave her daughter alone. Sadie tilted her head, as if confused. "But this is what she's for. She's the soil. And you're the rain." That night, Erin tried to set the house on fire. She doused every room with gasoline. Lit the match. The flame sputtered, then died. The gas evaporated in seconds. The air turned cold. The house laughed. It shook. The walls bled roots. Mirrors cracked inward. The floors breathed. And from the chimney, smoke poured, thick and black and screaming. Words formed in it. "You belong to the hollow now." Erin collapsed in the hallway, sobbing. In her hand, Sadie's old drawing. A family of 3. Except now there was a 4th figure, a tall black shape with no face, standing behind them all, holding them up like puppets. The next morning, there was no sky outside the windows. Only wood. Like they were inside a tree. And from the fireplace, a low tolling bell began to ring. 4 times. The bell rang 4 times. Each toll shook the house like a heartbeat. Dust poured from the rafters. Erin clung to the wall, her knuckles white. In her ears, a chorus of children's voices whispered. 1 for the mouth. 2 for the eyes. 3 for the mother. 4 for the rise. There were no windows anymore. Only pulsing bark, sealed tight like the house had buried itself. The front door had grown teeth. In the living room, Sadie sat on the ceiling. Yes, sat. Upside down, as if gravity had changed just for her. Her dress was woven from wasp wings. Her arms were too long now, her mouth never fully closed. She smiled when Erin entered. "You're just in time," she said. "He's waking up." Erin begged. Screamed. Tried to reach the real Sadie underneath the thing wearing her daughter's skin. But Sadie only blinked slowly and whispered, "Don't ruin it, Mom. You're the last root. We need you." The house began to sink. Not physically, not at first, but emotionally. The air got thicker, like trying to breathe underwater. Rooms stretched and shrank, warped like dying lungs. The lights pulsed in time with a heartbeat that wasn't Erin's. The family photos on the wall, all warped now. The eyes scratched out. The faces too wide. Too wet. And behind them, always, the same figure. Tall. Hollow. Watching. She ran. The house followed. The stairs twisted sideways, the floors melted into sinew and root, each step a heartbeat, each corner a mouth. Her phone showed no time, no date. Just one word, looping endlessly. Below, she reached the kitchen and found her own body there. Limp, cold, sitting upright at the table, eyes rotted out, mouth stitched closed with hair. One hand still clutching the drawing Sadie made, now soaked in black bile. The walls bled that same bile. Erin screamed, but the sound that came out of her throat wasn't her own. It was a crying baby. Then a choir of children. Then silence. And then something knocked. From inside the oven. She opened it. Inside, curled like a fetus, was Sadie, a real Sadie, small, terrified, eyes wide. "Mommy," she whispered. "Where'd she go?" "She's wearing me." Erin reached in, but the heat was unbearable. Sadie's skin began to bubble, to peel. The oven door slammed shut. And the house whispered. No more mothers. No more fire. Only root. The floor cracked. Not broke, split, like a jaw opening. Below, rows and rows of children's heads, half buried in soil, smiling, teeth sharp and numerous. Eyes rolled back. Their hair woven together like a net, stretching into the dark. They began to sing. And Sadie, the other Sadie, sang with them. "We are the fruit. She is the vine. And Bitter Creek is almost ripe." The house dropped. Literally fell through space, the way a heart drops in a nightmare. Erin clung to the staircase, watching as the ceilings peeled away to reveal darkness and stars made of mouths. And from that void crawled it. The Hollow One. Not a monster. Not a demon. Something far worse. A shape made of the absence of shape. A memory of something never born. A god that eats roots, bones, names. Its body was made of teeth and wood and silence. Its eyes were mirrors that didn't reflect, only absorbed. And as it reached toward Erin, she saw herself inside its reflection, already swallowed, already forgotten. Sadie raised her arms. "Take her, Father. She's ready. She never really fit in the world anyway." Erin screamed. But no sound came. Only smoke. And then, stillness. The house stood quiet on Bitter Creek Road once more. A new for sale sign in the yard. The windows pristine. The grass trimmed. A soft, welcoming hum vibrating from beneath the floorboards. In the upstairs bedroom, a child drew quietly. A girl with white eyes. Drawing a picture of her new family. A mother, a father. And something tall behind them, with no face, and arms that reached across the whole page. She smiled, humming. 1 for the mouth. 2 for the eyes. 3 for the mother. 4 for the rise. And